on, let's go. Woman King.
Woman King.
No, say it like you mean it.
Woman King.
That's a little bit loud. But...
Conrad, it is so nice to see you. I'm so excited about this show. But wait a second. For How to Die Alone, there was a How to Get Away with Murder reunion at the premiere. I don't think I didn't notice that. I was very excited. What was that like?
Oh, it's the best. I mean, Jack and I have been friends even since 2020 when we wrapped Murder. Jack is just one of the most heart of gold people that I know, especially in Hollywood. It's hard to find. Jack has come to see all of the theater that I've done, even if it means traveling across the country. So yeah, I've kept up with him, and I'm just so happy that he came out to support.
Well, we love to see Connor and Oliver back together once again.
Oh, hashtag Coliver.
Coliver forever. But we've got a new dynamic duo to talk about on this show, How to Die Alone. Your character, Rory, and Natasha Rothwell. I mean, the two of you are so great. Kind of, for anyone that is gonna watch this that hasn't seen it, besties that kind of work in JFK Airport together, and a lot of craziness ensues. I mean, I would imagine being with Natasha was probably so amazing. Tell me about that.
Yeah, no, she's been, honestly, was on my vision board 10 years ago when I saw her on the bit part she had on Love, Simon. I was like, who is that? She's stealing the show as the drama teacher. And then when I saw her get tased on Insecure at Coachella. And then when she played Belinda in season 1 of White Lotus, I was like, that solidified for me anyway, that this is somebody we've only seen 5% of what she's capable of. And so now that she's finally getting to be the whole show and writing the whole landscape, I just feel lucky that I was included in it. I felt an instant connection to her when I met her. I felt like we'd been best friends for decades. And we were hanging out one night and she was like, oh, my dad was in the Air Force. And I was like, my dad was in the Air Force. And then she was like, well, I went to this high school called Choctawhatchee High School in Florida, which is only a few miles away from where I went to high school. And we're about the same age. So we might have probably crossed paths at some point and didn't even know it. So it feels like this strange, energetic, gravitational pull that we've always had with each other, which then just makes doing on-camera work just so much easier because you feel safe and you just feel that you can let that natural connection just flow on camera.
It definitely comes through. Kindred spirits on and off camera. I love it. So your character he's a queer man, which we love, but there's a lot that think he's a good friend, but he's not, he's got some flaws in the friendship department. How would you describe Rory? Because he's also got some daddy issues. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, no, I feel like that these are all things that I can relate to. I can relate to being really messy in my 20s and in my 30s, and being in a point in my life where I was desperate to feel like I belonged, to feel like I was loved, but also rebelling against the things that I actually even wanted, which was like a relationship, which I think Rory, it's a lot of it is a front, in my opinion. His attachment to non-monogamy is just not wanting to get hurt. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, well, I don't want a relationship. And in saying that, he can then reject people before they reject him. And then all of a sudden, Bi-Coastal Bay comes along and is like very much interested in Rory. And then I just don't think he's figuring out how to handle that, how to accept being loved, which is really, really hard for all of us. I mean, it was definitely hard for me.
For sure.
20 years of therapy.
And I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a quick reference that really was impactful for me that I was so glad was included, because there's a point when Rory talks about looking for love, and potentially the blind date maybe came and saw that he was Asian and left, which I think, it's a quick reference, but I think for me, who's someone who's, half Filipino, there's still that kind of behavior that happens and kind of, stuff in LGBTQ culture. How happy were you to kind of be able to kind of say that and I'll, be a part of that kind of conversation? Because it is funny and it is quick, but I think it's, it's real.
Yeah, it's definitely a poignant moment that was just dropped in there, and oh yeah, that is harsh truth dropped in a very meaningful moment. I remember back in the early 2000s, all these dating apps released the data about, who is most and least desirable, and Asian American men were least desirable on the dating apps. And my friends and I were like, oh yeah, why did you have to say, we know, why'd you have to say it out loud?
Yeah.
All of the times that, I wrote a show called No Rice with my two best Gaysian friends. And it was about overcoming the trauma that not only that inflicts on you as an Asian man in this country. So yeah, I think it's something important to talk about, especially being a part of the media, because we've been emasculated for so many decades in media or just been completely invisible. So I think it's definitely a seed that needs to be planted, and I'm hoping that we explore that theme more.
No, thank you for that. And it was great. Like you said, it was quick, but it was poignant. Now, the two of you play best friends. So in real life, I want no spoilers. The friendship's not perfect. It goes on a little bit of a journey, but all friendships do. What are your musts when it comes to a good friend? Because for me, one of my pet peeves is when if you text someone and they respond 6 hours later, I'm like, that's friend. Unless they're busy, or but I'm if it's an urgent situation, I don't need a feedback in 6 hours. I want to know.
Yeah. No, I think being there for your friends there's no compromise on that. You have to be available to your friends. That's something that I think is a must. And I think honesty and being able to be honest with your friends, but in a way that, and this is something that I think that is tough, and Natasha shows this in the show, that in a really nuanced way, which it's tough to be supportive but honest a lot of times with your friends. Most of the times you end up just being supportive, and then you end up accumulating all of these things that you want to say to your friend, and then it comes out in one moment in a way that's not super healthy or helpful, because it's built up over years of you know what, I've been wanting to tell you this because you do this and you do it over and over again, and I just sit there and I listen to you for years now. And I think so that's a tricky balance with friends, is being supportive but also being honest with your friends. Yeah,
I think that's such good advice, and it's even something I had to kind of you think you get older, words of wisdom. It's just be honest. That's good for everything, but I like that. I mentioned that the backdrop for this, no spoiler, is in JFK Airport. It's definitely reminiscent of a certain airline, which was hilarious. There's a lot of mayhem that happens at the airport. Have you ever experienced, or I guess without, whatever you want to share, what's the wildest thing that's ever happened to you at an airport? Besides getting delayed.
Before I started acting, I was a tennis player, and I was trying to travel to a challenge. Now everybody knows what challenger tournaments are because of the movie Challengers, but they're low level pro tournaments. And so I was trying to fly to one in Miami, and I slept overnight and just on the floor of the airport when I was in my early 20s. That's not super crazy, but I guess I don't really have a great story.
Yeah, that's good. It happens. I've never slept on the floor yet, but I would do it. With this character Rory, and we're talking about Coliver, famous romance that we loved from How to Get Away with Murder. You always play these great queer characters, and you don't only play queer characters, but I think it's gotta be so meaningful for you at this point in your career to be, to get to be a part of, telling these stories that are obviously a part of who you are in real life.
Yeah, well, I think the great thing is, I was being interviewed a year ago, and somebody was asking me are you worried about getting typecast of only playing gay characters? And I'm like, no, because there's so much diversity within the queer community. And just from playing Oliver, who was so scared of the world and so shy and nervous about everything, to playing Rory, who is so outspoken and loud, and within the span of a couple of years, and then being able to play the Darcy character on Fire Island, and now I'm playing Abraham Lincoln in Oh Mary. That's the thing, is I think people used to think of coming out in your personal life as limiting in your professional life. And that has not been my experience at all. You have to be a good actor, and you have to be good at what you do. I think I'm living proof that you can be honest about who you are in your personal life and still have a very rich career, a very fulfilling career with a lot of variety.
You hear that, people? That's what it's all about. I love to hear that. Well, Conrad, thank you so much for the time. So good to see you. Just a reminder, everyone, How to Die Alone will be on Hulu September 13th starting, and then they're going to be rolling out episodes every week. So good, so much fun. But yeah, I should see you. Good luck with everything else. I'll talk to you soon.